Alright, since I've got it with me and the wind seems to have largely died down now, we'll give this little guy a try, but I don't know how optimistic I am. This is the blade. Well, the box says mSR, the original mSR, but this is actually an mSRX. I've got both. They're both old now. And they both, I think, especially the original mSR, but even this guy to some extent, have the reputation of being amongst the more horrible helicopters that Blade has produced. They were not pleasant ever to fly. These things, I don't think, not really. Let's see if that actually works. Famous last words. Well, of course, oh, there you go. We've got a light now. Took a while to think about it, but it did take a long while to think about it. And that's not safe initialization because it doesn't have safe. Anyway, let us see if I can fly this. The wind is almost, you can see the windsock's just gently swaying a little bit. The wind has almost totally died down because this is really an indoor helicopter. It's meant to be flown in no wind whatsoever. And quite frankly, even flying it indoors with no wind, from what I remember, it's a bit of a pain. And the original mSR, which this was the sort of upgraded version with the mSRX, the original mSR was even worse. That was a terrible thing to persuade to fly. Very tricky. Anyway, let's see. It's a flybarless, I guess. Flybarless single rotor helicopter, but I think it's, from the early days of the development of flybarless controllers. Yeah, well, that's not too bad. It's not, so far, famous last words. Seems to be behaving quite reasonably. I know the original one had the blue canopy, the original mSR, and I remember struggling like anything to get that to fly sensibly and not having much luck, but this seems to be flying perfectly okay in all fairness. I mean, for an outdoor flight of what's essentially an indoor helicopter, you really cannot complain. Make sure it's going to drift away as soon as there's any wind, naturally. And it's jiggering a bit, but the tail's holding fairly well. Yeah, I don't want to go too far with it because it's, it is a fixed pitch helicopter, so it's just going to get annoyed. I mean, it's not going to get annoyed. What I mean is, if any wind gets up, it will get very hard to bring. It will get very hard to bring back if any wind gets up. Tiny little gust of wind. That was just a little tiny gust of wind there, pushes him off sideways. So long as there's no wind. But honestly, I mean, I'm surprised. The wind's getting up from my right again now, but I'm having to fight to stop him going off to the left. But I mean, he's actually flying very well compared. I think, I may be remembering the original mSR more than this mSRX. I know I had terrible struggles trying to get the original mSR to behave, but this guy really seems to be flying quite well. No criticisms about the way this is behaving. Little tiny judder in the tail, but you can't dual brush, old helicopter with dual brush motors, and these are the original motors. I've never changed the motors in it, so you really can't complain. So maybe my negative impressions of the Blade mSR. I don't know about that. I don't know why I've got such a long timer on it. I doubt he would really fly for another 4 minutes, although he might on this battery, because this is a 220 milliamp hour battery. It's quite a bit more than what I think he originally flew with a 150. No, very little height I want with him. I don't like height with fixed pitch helicopters because they catch the wind and then you can't bring them down. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised. This guy flies a lot better than I remembered, but as I say, perhaps my memories are skewed by my struggles with the original mSR, which was the one with the blue canopy. This is an mSRX, which I actually bought used. I bought off a guy on Kijiji, I remember, and it actually flies quite well. I'm quite impressed with it. We take it to indoor flying this week. I'm really, this flies much better than I expected. Missed the thing then, but nearly hit it, but I was moving a little bit sideways.
Throttle cut off.
Just trying to land, see if I can actually land on the helipad.
Throttle cut on.
I think you certainly ought to be able to if you're being careful with this, and that wind doesn't come. Well, I have a much better impression of this now than I did before. As I say, I think my views were skewed by my struggles with the original Blade mSR, but this mSR-X actually seems to fly quite, very nicely indeed for a fixed pitch flybarless helicopter. No complaints about that at all. So he'll get another outing probably at the indoor flying, because mostly we're switching to indoor now. There's not going to be much more opportunity for outdoor flying. So there you go. It's nice when something works better than you expect. That's the Blade mSR-X, which actually seems to work quite well.